So, I think we are online. Let me know in the comments if it's working or not. So, I'm not sure if we are streaming. You should see by now the Panama screen, Tarantulas of Mesoamerica, part 1. And ideally, you would see my face on the top or down right corner, um, wiggling around. So, yeah, you have a comment section on the live chat, so you can use that, and you can use that for any types of questions if you have any. So there will be at least one break, and also let me know if the audio level is good enough, if you can hear me. Otherwise, I have to adjust it somewhere here. A lot of us are now in a quarantine sort of situation, so I thought, why not just present some of the pictures I usually show at lectures, um, just in a live stream. So we did that before. It's not the first time. So this time we're talking about Panama. So I hope it really is working with the audio level and you can hear me. There are already a few comments, so it looks like it is working. Um, so just we just start, I think, with a few facts and figures. So we compare Panama to Switzerland, 83% bigger than Switzerland, but at the same time, the population of Switzerland is around 2 times the size of that in Panama, and there's always 3 times more rainfall than in Switzerland. So quite a lot of rainfall in Panama, and the GDP is about 17 times higher than in Panama. So it is not the richest country in terms of money, but it is rich in a lot of like emotions from the Panamanians, and it was a pleasure to travel to Panama. So just to give you a brief overview about Panama, um, it is basically bordering 2 countries. On the left side, this one over here, you see the border to Costa Rica. And on the right side, it is bordering Colombia. And this right here is the Darien Gap, which is also a national park. And this road here, the American road, is basically from Alaska, the very northern point, to South Chile. But this part right here, the Darien Gap, is the only piece which is missing of the road. So you can't really drive to Colombia from Panama. This Darien Gap, you have to use a yacht or other boats from Panama sailing to Colombia. So that just as a side note. I hope still everything is working fine. The audio is fine. I see a lot of comments. So hi guys. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this little presentation about the Panama tarantulas. So we started in Panama City, which is right here. The airport is a bit outside of Panama City. And then actually, just to give you some brief context of the whole journey, traveled for 2 weeks in this country in the sole purpose to look for tarantulas and document them. We drove basically this road to the Costa Rican borders and spent most of our time in Costa Rica in this area right here, but more of that later on. But we didn't travel by ourselves completely. We traveled also with someone from Britain. So I'll not mention any names because we don't have a good, how do you say that? Like, it's better not to mention any names. But there will be pictures which he will be also on. They are like blurred out, so I don't have his consent to show him in a presentation, but just that you know, there were the 3 of us, so Rito, myself, and he. And yeah, just let's start. Brief overview about the tarantulas. There are 19 different species recorded regarding the Pletnik catalog of World Spider Catalog. And yeah, we will not go into detail that much. There are many tarantulas known from Panama which are not scientifically described yet. And of course, some of them, like the Xenestis imanis you see down here, is probably not living in Panama. So even though the World Spider Catalog is mentioning this as a species from Panama, it probably is not from Panama or does not live in Panama, but only in Colombia. First stop, the border to Colombia. And in this area right here, we basically searched for our first few spiders. So that was our van we rented, 4x4, and just the very first few hours of driving was actually quite bizarre. There were a lot of roadblocks, and by local people because they had issues with the government. So the first few hours were extremely long, and was not so pleasure to, like, yeah, have the start of that trip down there. This is also a picture showing you on how they maintain their land. So it's not usually they cut the grass, but they also decide to just burn it. It is way easier than to just cut the grass, but also it means that there is a lot of smoke around, and it is not very pleasant to be around these burning stuff just right next to the street. Another sign we saw, I think, at least 3 car accidents, and yeah, nothing very pleasant, but something you usually see when you're traveling around in Central America. And then, actually, this was our first stop. So we decided that it's maybe the best option to just ask the local people if there are any tarantulas around. And if you are traveling to a foreign country, just make sure always ask the local people. Not only that they know that you're in their area, but they can also give you permission in case you want to really dig out a specimen for photography. It's not something you should do, but sometimes, especially when you only have limited time, you can consider digging out a tarantula if, and there's a big if you're able to get a nice burrow for the tarantula after you're finished taking pictures. So when digging out a tarantula, just make sure that you can actually put her back into some sort of burrow. In this occasion, the 3 of us actually had research and collecting permits, so the person traveling with us had permits to collect specimen, and this was the occasion. So in this area, this was the landowner. So we asked if it's possible to go on his land to look for tarantulas. And not only we were looking for tarantulas, but also some friends of his were looking and helping us to find tarantulas. And of course, a few minutes later, we found the first tarantula burrow. And here you can see, very nice, that it does not look like a rodent burrow because there is some silk just at the entrance. Normally, when you're looking for tarantulas in the field, there's so many burrows around, and you don't have any idea how to tell them apart from other burrows. But if you find tarantula holes, they, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, have this sort of silk entrance. And then, of course, you can tell. So this is how it looks like when the tarantula is not cooperating. So again, we had the permission of the landowner, and there were scientific permits involved to collect specimens for research. Here you see that we needed quite some tools to dig out the specimen. And what you also can see is that the hole is quite deep. So we're talking about 50 to 60 centimeters deep down in the burrow. And of course, it was quite a bit of exhausting. I see a lot of people. If you have any comments or questions, there will be a break, and I try to answer hopefully all of them. So just let me know in the comments. And here we see the spider. Beautiful adult female of Sericopelma. Which species it is, we have no clue. This was back in the year 2012, so it was 8 years ago. And since then, I have not seen any work or publications with the material we collected that day. So they're still working on this material, and it's not something which is like done in a few weeks. So this Sericopelma, beautiful specimen, nice colorations, and just very near of the border to Costa Rica. So awesome specimen, and our first documentary in Panama. This was a juvenile specimen in the very same area we found, under a rock, so it was not really hard to dig out the specimen. It was just flipping rocks, and underneath you'll get presented a juvenile specimen of this Sericopelma. Beautiful genus, beautiful specimens. Yeah, certainly make great pets because they eat like, I don't know, there's no tomorrow. So you can basically feed them what you want and they will eat it. So also great for keeping them as pets. Of course, scorpions. This one here with babies, something you get to see quite often if you're traveling and flipping rocks. So that's also something you have to be careful about when you flip rocks with your bare hands, that you can get stung by one of the scorpions. So always keep that in mind if you are looking for stuff underneath rocks. So the scenery, mostly dominated by agriculture. So there was not enough or not a lot of primary rainforest or even secondary rainforest available in this region, because basically the people need to eat, and therefore they just use the land for their purpose so they can grow enough food for them. So that was on another area. We asked for permission. It's always great to get the people involved locally so they're not suspicious. You talk to them what you're looking for, and usually they know about their tarantulas and they can help you find them. But not so in this case. He said there were never any tarantulas on his land, but of course we found of the same species some specimens and showed them to him, so that's also nice. You can basically tell that. And this is another location we looked for, very typical, these roadside embankments, great for housing tarantulas. You see, very easy to like just travel to. You can park your car right next to it, and usually you will find tarantulas in these sort of vertical embankments. And also in this occasion, so in this wall we found three different species of tarantula. Can anyone guess which ones we did find? So to make it a little bit more interactive, because there's so many people here in the chat, what kind of species of tarantulas do you think we found in this road embankment? So the latency is a bit big. We just start with the first one. This is the Crypsiodromus. And Crypsiodromus, this is actually a specimen which is not that nicely colored, but you can guess why they're called Black Emilia, because they sort of resemble the triangle on the carapace, which a lot of Brachypelma emilia specimens have. So that's why they're called Black Emilia in the pet trade. But this is a freshly molted specimen. I know the pictures are not the best. You have to remind yourself that these were taken 8 years ago. But still, that's a remarkable, remarkable specimen. It's sadly not something we have in breeding within the hobby. So it's not a specimen which was bred successfully a lot of times. It happened occasionally, or with like bringing XX from the wild into the pet trade. But sadly, this species, I have not seen many who were able to breed this species. So an amazing specimen we found here. But also there was, of course, another species of tarantula we found in the very same wall. Here you can see a comparison side by side. Again, they're in a catch cup because there were collecting permits involved in this whole trip. So just remember yourself, if you're collecting tarantulas, make sure you are within compliance of the law, and do not collect specimens which are protected. Another Sericopelma species in this very wall. So we're not 100% sure if it's another species of tarantula or if it's the same of this genus we found earlier on the trip. But it was somewhat like a few, I would say around 70 kilometers away. And the coloration really differed. So that's also an adult specimen. But of course, it could be the same species. I don't know. Sericopelma is not a genus which is readily worked on in the past few years or with new material. So therefore, it's quite hard to distinguish. Anyone knows what this species is? I see your guesses from the last one, Hapalopus, Selenocosmia javaensis, Sericopelma. Awesome guesses. It was from the Crypsiodromus, and Crypsiodromus is now basically synonymized with the Lasiodora genus. So basically, the Black Emilia is a species within the genus Lasiodora, which is of course not true, but that's a whole nother topic to talk about. This one right here, with the horn, is the Spherobotria hoffmanni, the only tarantula from Central America with a horn. So there are other horned tarantulas. Of course, also in South America, there is the Megaphobeema tekai from the Amazon region. And there are some species of tarantulas from the Dominican Republic or Cuba who also have a horn. But this one, the Spherobotria hoffmanni, of course, one of the most, I don't have to tell you, it's one of the most iconic tarantulas from the Mesoamerican region, and simply outstanding tarantula. And this time in Panama, it was actually the first time someone managed to find a tarantula officially of this species in Panama. So there was a paper about it. Just a brief note that Spherobotria hoffmanni not only lives in Costa Rica, but also in Panama. First few breaks, if you have any questions yet. It does not look like you have a lot of questions, so you can now leave some if there are any, or we just continue with the pictures. That would be the easiest way. So next up, we decided to head a little bit away from this region right here, so the Costa Rican border. We decided to check out this area over here a little bit more in a couple of days, and the vegetation differed extremely. So we not also made a change in the altitude. So before, we most of the time spent in an area around 2 to 500 meters above sea level, but in this region we were at around 1100 to 1300 meters above sea level, so quite a lot higher. And in this region we wanted to find different species of Sericopelma, but also our first arboreal tarantula of the trip. Um, Sadly, we did not find the arboreal tarantula by ourselves. That is the bad part of the story. The good part, though, is that our friend who traveled with us had friends there who actually managed to catch a arboreal tarantula for us. So because these people in the hostel knew that their friend traveling from Britain all the time to Panama is very interested in spiders, they decided to catch the next tarantula they found and then present them to their friend. And luckily, we had an amazing time up there. You see, the flora is completely changing. There's so much lush greenery, and here you see that there is a lot of like epiphytes growing on the trees itself. So that means that there's a lot of humidity in the air and there's a lot of like rainfall happening. And in this area we spent, I think, 2 nights, and we looked for tarantulas all the time, and we did not find a single specimen. What we did enjoy is, though, the views, and of course the nice surprise that they have catched a tarantula for us and then decided, of course, to present the specimen to us. So it is a remarkable specimen of the genus Psalmopoeus. And funny enough, we don't know to which species this specimen belongs to. The fastest guess would be Psalmopoeus reduncus. So this specimen or species, which is like living in Costa Rica, but they are certainly not living around 1200 meters above sea level. So where you're going to find Psalmopoeus reduncus is on relatively low altitude regions, especially in the Caribbean region of the country, in Costa Rica or in Panama. So this specimen was so darkly colored and at the same time quite docile that we were not sure if it really is a Psalmopoeus reduncus. And if you now look at the latest publications of these Britain researchers currently working on the genus Psalmopoeus, they have now described 3 new Psalmopoeus species from the Mesoamerican region. So now there is not only the Psalmopoeus reduncus in Costa Rica, but now we also have 3 new Psalmopoeus species right next to this Psalmopoeus reduncus, just bordering the northern distribution range of Psalmopoeus victori from Mexico. So we very, very possibly have here another new species of Psalmopoeus from the highlands of Panama. And I hope it will be a new species because it certainly differs just looking at it from the classic Psalmopoeus reduncus. But enough of that. Cerambicid, very nice species of bug, actually insect, and they were huge, very very huge. So after that, we decided to change location again, and actually had a little bit more in the southern region. So before we were up here in this region, so here was David, and we drove now all the way in this region. So this is the Azuero Peninsula, and in this region we spent another few days of our trip. And again, it is a live session. I know there are a lot of people looking right now into it, and if you have any comments or questions, just leave them here, and we will now later take another break to like answer them if you have any. In this southern region, we decided to ask again the local people, and it was a different trip than our usual trip. Usually we do the tarantula trips mostly just to photograph specimens, but this time, because there were collection permits involved, and there was someone traveling with us who is like collecting specimens for the research, we had to go to places where he knew that he needed material of. So this is another instance. There were so many burrows of tarantulas in this ground of this property. I've never seen, we all have never seen something like that before. And since then, even though this whole trip was 8 years ago, we have never seen a colony this huge again. So this was the soccer field. And of course, we asked the local community there if there are any tarantulas present. And again, they said no, there are no tarantulas here. We have never seen tarantulas before on this property. And they also said that they are playing football and soccer all the time, and they've never seen a tarantula. So it just took us like 2 minutes to find the first burrow on this field. And there were so many different burrows, just I would say 40 to maybe 50 centimeters away. You could not count how many tarantula burrows there were. And it was a new species. So again, you have to remember 8 years ago, but still, you always have the option to discover a new species which is unknown to science. And of course, in these days, you always like have to make the difference between something which has been photographed before because a tourist photographed a spider and like scientifically new to science. So these are two pair of shoes, because there's so many people now traveling the world, and by accident they find new species because they took a picture of it. But still, you can find new tarantula species, and this one was actually later on described as Sericopelma belindae, an amazing tarantula of the genus Sericopelma. And you can see these whitish colored legs, especially the first and second pair of leg, which you can see extremely well when they're hidden in the burrow. It just looks fabulous. And even though they're brown tarantulas, in my opinion, they look amazing. And this is another new species we found there, Sericopelma belindae. Quite an awesome found. And we have stopped counting them, but there were easily like 30 adult females just in this small soccer field. So here we would show a YouTube video So let us check if that is working. I will zoom right here in and make it ready for you guys. So this would be the video of Philip Samadi. He is running the World of Spiders YouTube channel, and yeah, I would say you could basically enjoy now this video of Sericopelma belindae in the nature habitat. Yeah, it is an awesome species, and you can see here that he has found this species in these roadside embankments, and basically just also sharing that there are many specimens present at the same time. In the same wall, you will usually find more than just one specimen. So what you have to do, go over to his channel, World of Spiders, and click on subscribe, and also ring this little bell icon so you get notified when he is uploading a new video. That would be great. And yeah, Sericopelma belindae, amazing specimen, but you can do that by yourself later on. So we will just now continue with the slideshow because we have other interesting material. So this is another place or another view you get to see a lot of times. They're working to enhance the whole experience of traveling through Panama. Of course, they have to like invest in these sort of work, of course. And what you see here is that, of course, all the tarantulas or other animals present in these roadside embankments, they will get destroyed by these machines. But of course, after that's finished, there will be new roadside embankments where these tarantulas can settle in. And this is maybe the part you were all here for, because you clicked on the link because of the thumbnail. On this very road, we managed to find huge burrows, which were, of course, inhabited by tarantulas, because again, here you see there is silk present outside of the burrow, and also inside of the burrow you see these silk remains the tarantula used to actually web up the whole thing. And yeah, this is the first thing we saw when we looked into these burrows. There is some orange present on these legs, but remember, this was 8 years ago. Not only that was present in the tarantula burrow, but also a small frog was present in the tarantula burrow. So I cannot say that we found several different specimens of frogs within several different burrows of these tarantulas, but what I can say is that we found this single frog in this burrow of this tarantula. And there is other literature and other stories of amphibians, or especially frogs, inhabiting the same burrow as a tarantula. I think there is an article about certain species of frog living like in some symbiosis with a Pamphobeteus species from the Amazon region in Peru. But this right here was also happening in case of this species. A closer look, you know it from the thumbnail, and we all knew what kind of species it is because we were very close to the locality this species got her name from. Sericopelma species Santa Catalina from Panama. It is a remarkable species, and I still have issues that I didn't took more pictures of this specimen or better pictures, because in my opinion, this Sericopelma species is like one of the most beautiful tarantulas out there, in my opinion. And if you find these giants in nature and they have these vibrant colors of orange and black, in this case also on the carapace, the fangs and the femurs are totally black. It was just a remarkable find, and luckily we found several different adult specimens, and yeah, it's just an one of a time species of Sericopelma, and generally tarantulas from Panama. So if you go to Panama, I can highly recommend that you look for these. And again, collecting tarantulas, just try to only collect tarantulas when you have a permit for it, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, we also found smaller specimens. So this another Sericopelma Santa Catalina species specimen. And here you see also on these small burrows they live in, so this will basically be the entrance, you see silk retreats. So you can guess during daytime that inside in this little burrow there would potentially living a tarantula, but usually during daytime you will not get the specimens out. So it is better to go by night, as in this case we took the picture by night because they were just waiting outside. And yeah, it's just an amazing species of Sericopelma. What you can see here is that his or hers leg on the left side, the second leg, is actually growing again. So that's something you see a lot of times, that tarantulas or especially spiders in general are missing legs in the nature. So yeah, we were happy that the adult female was having all the legs, so we could take at least a few decent pictures of it. So I would say I'll go through the chat real quick, and you can in this time admire the picture of this adult female of Sericopelma Santa Catalina again. Maybe there are questions, but it looks like it's pretty spot on. I think we will just do the questions in the end. That will be easy. So I see Volker is commenting that they couldn't find any silk on the entrance of the burrows. Different Sericopelma in our trip before 4 weeks ago. So yeah, of course, I'm not saying that there is silk all the time on these burrow entrances. And of course, we found several different tarantulas without any silk on the burrow entrance. But in this occasion, we were lucky enough to like get this sort of I would say tip or hint that there is a tarantula living inside the burrow quite often. I've also heard that in case of the Telephosa blondi, the Goliath bird-eating tarantula, that there is no silk at the entrance from various different people who have found them in nature. But also in our occasion where we found the specimen, there was silk at the entrance. So yeah, somewhat of a lucky shot we maybe had. Here we had another YouTube video to watch. So again, from Philip Samadi, thanks again for letting us watch your videos. World of Spiders, make sure you subscribe to his channel. Click the bell icon. He has tons of different tarantulas documented in the wild. This video about Sericopelma Santa Catalina is over 6 minutes long. So you really have to watch it if you're interested in how these tarantulas live in the wild. And also what you can do here is you see an adult male here, where he was able to document the adult male of the specimen, which do look amazing. They have not only orange coloration but also purple, bluish coloration on the carapace, which obviously have a lot of Sericopelma species present. So again, not only spiders and tarantulas, but also this iguana was present on our trip. I could show you like tons of pictures more of this trip, but we are just focusing on the tarantulas and we make it as short as possible. So the next stop, right next to Santa Catalina, would be our trip with some very adventurous boat to an island not far from Santa Catalina. And also on this island, of course, we wanted to know if there are any tarantulas present and if there are any big tarantulas present. So again, some nice pictures of the landscape where we just drove with this boat for like 3 hours, I would say. And it was a national park, mostly for the maritime wildlife and not particularly for the wildlife present on the island, but all the coral reefs just right next to it. You could also do diving trips or snorkeling trips. Of course, we didn't do any of that. We just headed into the forest and then tried to look for tarantulas. They also had a little museum, and lucky for us, we did find a tarantula spider, which was in very bad condition. If you show this picture to someone working in a museum or working professionally with tarantulas, you see that there is not enough alcohol in this whole jar. And yeah, this is the right alcohol you have to get if you want to like have a party after you found tarantulas. But basically, this right here, the view from the island, and also on the trip, we managed to find extremely often little crabs inhabiting a lot of burrows on these trails. So in all the different burrows we looked for, and we really thought there is a tarantula inside, there was a crab inside. But you see, just I would say after a few hours, we managed to find one single specimen of this Sericopelma species, which was underneath a rock, not in a burrow. Have you ever seen a Sericopelma like this? Maybe it's a new species. You don't know. It's from an island, national park island in Panama, and it is certainly not something which is in the hobby or in the pet trade, because then it would probably be like written that it is from this national park and it is from this specific island in Panama. Just a single specimen, and we don't know if it is a new species, if it is like living or similarly to the ones we found on the main island. But just remember, the closest Sericopelma which we found to this specimen was the Santa Catalina specimen. So Sericopelma species Santa Catalina differs just by the looks of it quite drastically from this Sericopelma we found on this island. So yeah, really nice. But still, it is a single specimen, and with a single specimen, you don't know if it is a new species or if it is just an old species or specimen from the same species. So that could be very well a like 20-year-old Santa Catalina specimen. We have no idea. And that's something you should maybe also consider when thinking about new tarantula species or getting new tarantula species, that most of the time it's not really clear if there has no taxonomic comparison been made on this whole subject. Beautiful, nice sunset. A place I can just recommend. Panama in general, so many nice people, the food is great, and so many awesome tarantulas to look for. adventurous hikes, of course, river crossing in Panama style was always great. We had an awesome time there, great fun, and yeah, some nice views, and nothing to talk about badly about the whole trip. We had great fun and did find some more Sericopelma specimens. So this is from the Azuero Peninsula. So we're back again on the main island. And here we did encounter a very black specimen or species of Sericopelma. Again, we found, I would say, 4 or 5 big adult females, and they were all this black. So it was not that within the same population that there were some specimens which were a bit lighter colored and others were very blackly colored. The whole 4 to 5 specimens we found, they looked all like this and just resembled some Brachypelma or now Tliltoclatl vagans. But of course, the whole look, the whole habitus of the species and specimen does not look like the one from a Brachypelma. But still, the reddish hairs on the abdomen can very well resemble this jet black Sericopelma species. And the smaller ones we found were also completely black. So this is a freshly molted specimen. And yeah, the hairs on the abdomen are completely red. And yeah, they were just very nice, nicely colored Sericopelma. And there was a huge variety in different Sericopelma specimens. So I cannot show you all the different Sericopelma pictures we found from all the different localities, but we found extremely many different Sericopelmas, and especially the smaller ones, you cannot tell them apart. And the bigger ones in the field, you just can tell them apart by the coloration and certain geographic boundaries. So it's not perfect. Again, back at the beach, if you are someone into like having a swim in the sea or you're into surfing, I think Panama is a good destination for you to go, especially for the ones from the US. The flight is not that long, and also from Europe, you have some good connections to actually fly to Panama. And it is bordering Costa Rica. It is all the wildlife Costa Rica also has, but it's just like 100% cheaper. It's way cheaper than traveling in Costa Rica. So we switched the side. We switched seas. So we drove all the way into the northern part on the Caribbean side because we actually wanted to find Psalmopoeus reduncus. And there is also a Sericopelma species living in this area, which we would love to see. And that's why we traveled the whole route by car to this Bocas del Toro area and yeah, tried our luck there. So again, different kind of vegetation. I was more Caribbean lowland forest. We were around 200 to 300 meters above sea level, and it was extremely humid, extremely wet, and completely different than the landscape we found earlier on our trip. And here in this picture, again, you see these type of trees have special roots which keep the whole tree stable in times where there is a lot of water coming and some flood-like scenarios. With this type of root, the plant actually has the best chance to survive the whole flood. But when they break apart, as seen here, here, or here, they leave a hollow structure. And in this hollow structure, you should definitely look for tarantulas if you're there when you want to find any tarantulas. So this was the hide or retreat of a juvenile Psalmopoeus reduncus from the Caribbean side of Panama. And as mentioned earlier, you see that tarantulas, or usually spiders, lose their limbs quite frequently in nature, but Psalmopoeus reduncus was or is still one of my favorite species, and it was amazing that we found at least one specimen on our trip. And you see how difficult it can be. Like, they could be everywhere on these trees, in every little part they could potentially create their hide. And therefore, we were just so lucky and so grateful that we at least found one specimen, and yeah, did not have to invest a couple of days to like just document a single one. So this is the Psalmopoeus reduncus from the Panamanian side on the Caribbean side, and basically in the area of Bocas del Toro. So this is how a cowboy looks like in Panama. Quite an amazing landscape, and of course you can also always take a swim in these kind of rivers if you're too hot. So we're at the end, and show you one of the last few pictures. So I would say you have again the chance to ask some questions if there are any. If there are none, that's even better. Um, we almost took 1 hour now, so still quite a lot of talking involved. And I definitely prefer the lectures on site. So, yeah, hopefully this year, after the whole pandemic, we can do more, or like all these different lectures at the different Stammtische. And yeah, let's see. Last but not least, yeah, what should I say? It's another roadside embankment, and we were looking for tarantulas. We knew that in this region there is a tarantula living. We wanted to find, because of the taxonomic revision going on. So this was it. Remember, it was 8 years ago, and this is the first picture, or one of the first pictures, of the real Davus fasciatus. So this is actually the real Davus fasciatus, and the Davus fasciatus is actually quite often in the hobby, but it's not the same species which it basically is living in Costa Rica and Panama. So in the pet trade, we have a different specimen we call Davus fasciatus, but this is the real Davus fasciatus. And you see the pattern. They have this greenish tint on all the legs, so it's not blue, it's more green. And the markings on the opistosoma are unique. So there is no other Davus species in Central America who like does look identical, or you can think of when you call this or talk about this whole genus Davus. There was basically a revision of this genus a few years ago. I would say it was in 2016. The Davus Metriopelma revision. And the Metriopelma zebratum was transferred into the genus Davus and is from then now called the Davus ruficeps. But the Davus fasciatus, finally, we have pictures to it. It was 8 years ago, so in the meantime, I think there are different pictures around the internet available. But again, it is a species we don't have in the pet trade. And what is also interesting enough is that this species of tarantula did not show any burrows to us. So it looks like that they also built a trapdoor-like structure as the Davus ruviceps does. So the Metriopelma zebratum, the Davus ruviceps, actually builds a trapdoor-like structure. So it's not that sophisticated as the ones from Idiotella mira or Typhoclena celadonia, but still, these Davus species or specimens tend to build structures. And in this area, just right here, we found 2 adult females by accident, basically. So we knew that they were living in this area, but we had no idea where to look for. So that's something you should always consider, that enough, it doesn't matter how much research you put into a trip. It could be the best research trip. In the end, you would still need luck, because you can be in areas where you know that there are tarantulas present, which you want to find, but you can be there for 2 weeks and do not find a single specimen. And in other occasions, just like here, we did know that there are tarantulas present of this species, but we had no further information on where exactly to look for. So yeah, amazing little tarantula. It's a dwarf tarantula, which is like this big, I would say, and amazing tarantula, Davus ruviceps. So this is like the last picture I will show. So before ending this whole live session, let's just go through the comments again. If there are any questions present, basically. So yup, post this on, try to get more people watching. Yeah, next time, if you have like people interested in watching tarantulas in the wild, just post these YouTube links in all the different Facebook groups. It's always better when people, like other people, are posting the content, and it's not that good if you by yourself are posting the videos, because Facebook does not like this whole self-promotion stuff. Basically, no one really likes self-promotion. So if you're interested in and you really like the content, feel free to share it. It would mean a lot to us. Yeah, questions. Is it possible only silk at female when they are ready to breed? So the question is, is it possible that only is silk present on the female's burrow when they are able to breed? And indeed, in this case, most of the tarantulas actually had XX. So most of the tarantulas we found were either having XX, or there were already freshly hatched larvae present in the burrow. So yes, potentially yes. When there is silk present at the entrance, it could very well be that they are either having an egg sac or a cocoon, or just are about to get one started. Holothele species in Panama, especially like Hotrotele coloratus. Holotele. Hapalopus, yeah, you corrected it in the end. Hapalopus coloratus, no, we did not find Hapalopus coloratus. This species is actually present on the bordering side of Colombia, so we did not go east, I would say, sorry. We did not go east from Panama City, and Meteropelma coloratus is basically living east of Panama City, and next time, hopefully, we will be able to go to the Darien region, where also the whole Colombian bordering thing is happening, and there should be some amazing species over there. Neishnocolus, no, like the former Ami. We did not find any of these very dwarfish specimens, but it maybe also depends on the team of the people you are with on the trip. So on this trip, there were the 3 of us. So my friend Rito and another one um, which I would no longer consider to be a friend of mine, but he was also with us, and his aim was basically to collect as much material for his work, just like here with the Meteoropelma. So there was not really a focus on finding smaller specimens. So depending on the team and depending on the priorities, you could certainly find different or more tarantula spiders. So good. Picture of the trapdoors. If there's a question if I have pictures of the trapdoors of these Meteoropelma trapdoors I talked earlier. So basically there should be pictures around from the Davus ruviceps, the Meteoropelma zebratum we found in Nicaragua in 2013, I think. So I will go through these pictures, and there is also an article in the Arachne, the journal, the German tarantula journal, about Meteoropelma zebratum, and I think there should be a picture inside of this whole trapdoor structure. And when I kept them as pets, they also built a trapdoor, but it's not a sophisticated trapdoor. It was more of a flap hanging above the whole entrance they built. Good. So I think all questions answered. Thank you guys for watching this whole stuff. I'm not sure if this will be online for others to view again, so I will decide later on. I have to rewatch the whole thing. And yeah, thank you. It was awesome, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good time, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy. And yeah, that was basically all. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message, feel free to send me an email, and yeah, recommend the channel and leave a comment, leave a subscribe, whatever. Share it. Would be great to see more people on this channel. And thanks for watching. It was awesome, and maybe again soon in the future.